So gas flaring is the burning, simply put, the burning of natural gas, coal and petroleum.
It means degradation and destruction, disturbance of our ecosystem and the environment as a whole.
To me, I feel it is an economic sabotage. I see it as wastage because the products of the gas being flared, in many countries, in many developed countries, have been converted to some economic use.
It causes environmental issues, problems, health issues, and economic problems.
It's a wastage of resources that would have otherwise be used to better the loss of Nigerians.
It's a time bomb, and it's something that is affecting the entire ecosystem. And if we don't take urgent action, it's going to eat deep into the system. When I say system, into each community, each life.
It's not just a Niger Delta problem, because we have the issue of the food chain, our water, our ecosystem. Going back, agriculture has gone to an all-time low in the Niger Delta, and then we have pollution in our waters, in our seas, and that's where we get seafood, crayfish, shellfish, and our fish. So it all goes around, and then the effects of all this poisonous gas comes in.
Gas flaring is one of the contributors to the global climate crisis because it is a source of greenhouse gases which contributes to rising global temperatures.
Hell on earth for communities in terms of the impact or the health hazards, destruction of livelihoods encountered by communities where gas is being flared.
Climate change is an existential threat. It's for me, it's the biggest threat that we are facing for my generation, and my generation also has the biggest opportunity to end the climate crisis. So I think I don't find the need to exist if my environment, if the climate would be a threat for my immediate life. That should be the first priority for me. Environment.
First of all, gas flaring is a crime. It's not just a crime against a particular community, it's a crime against humanity. All over the world, like anywhere gas is being flared, then there is a crime being committed. Nigeria, as a case study, has banned gas flaring or outlawed it since 1984 and until today. Until today, 35 years down the line, we're still flaring gas. So to me, gas flaring is a crime that needs to be stopped. It's like murder. People that flare gas should be treated as the same thing, the same way Boko Haram has been treated, the same way the ISIS has been treated.
So we have a case whereby animals, wildlife do not know the difference between day and night. And secondly, we have people suffering from all sorts of strange illnesses and complications as a result of chemicals and acids and dangerous gases in the environment.
And you should take it seriously now, because you find that issues around associated gas are no longer in vogue. New forms of energy are being tested and used, and the point is that it has done more harm than good to the people of the Niger Delta. So the government should take it seriously and convert it to more better use.
Research says that we are losing about $2.5 billion per year from gas flaring, and then we are losing about 3.5 gigawatts of electricity if we were to harness the gas. So it's a very bad situation, looking at it from the economic aspect and also from development.
I see it as one, as I call it, an economic sabotage, because when I use it for something better, then I see it as what? As a means of environmental degradation. Because of what? Through gas flaring, we are polluting our environment. We are equally, using it to cause health implications. Because of what? Wherever gas is flared, it destroys the environment that the socio-economic activities of that region will not be viable.
The health of the people in that area is being affected. Then the environment itself also is not healthy.
I live in a very strange context, the context of the Niger Delta, where the bulk of resources of this country is extracted from. But the region also suffers the most adverse effects of oil extraction, and gas flaring is one of the most dangerous. We have in gas flaring a danger that is fourfold. One, it kills the people. It reduces their life expectancy. It causes respiratory illnesses. Second, it's a waste of economic resources. These communities in the Niger Delta live with energy poverty. The gas being flared can actually be harnessed and used to generate much needed electricity. Third, the Nigerian economy needs it. This could actually generate very good money, for the country and for the communities where the gas is being flared. Fourth, it leads to very serious environmental pollution. This gas goes up in the sky and return back as acid rain, killing fishes, poisoning farmlands, destroying crop nutritional value, and causing general poverty in the region. That's why we got interested in this campaign.
The Niger Delta has become a metaphor for ecological destruction. It's one of the 10 most polluted places on planet Earth. And we are not talking about the pollution that occurred years ago. We are talking about pollution that started 60 years ago and is ongoing on a daily basis. As we speak, there are gas flares across the region in the oil field communities. As we speak, there are ongoing oil spills in the communities. So we're speaking of a place that has been neglected to a level that can only be described as criminal. It's not an episodic or once in a while environmental problem. This is why the issues of environmental damage in the Niger Delta has got to the level where we can say that there's virtually a deliberate corporate attempt to kill the environment, not just kill the people. It's what people describe nowadays as ecocide, worse than genocide.
It's deeply worrisome. In fact, for younger people now, especially in that area of Niger Delta, they come from their birth with impacts from environmental damages, so chiefly gas flaring and oil spills in that area, contamination, strange sicknesses, birth defects, a bunch of things. Of course, quite popularly, you have the suits. When you are inhaling polluted air on a daily basis, a lot of deaths in that region can be accounted for by pollution. We know how many million people pollution kills annually. And the city of Port Harcourt, for example, in Rivers State, it's one of the most polluted cities in the world, one of the most dangerous places to live in. And people live here, people are delivered here, young people growing up. It should be a nightmare to live in such a place.
And for young people, it's a problem of livelihood. For example, so gas flaring is causing pollution, it's causing young people to lose their jobs. Say, young people who are into agriculture and farming, for example, are losing their means of livelihood.
One of the major things that gas flaring is doing to young people in the Niger Delta is that it is taking away their sources of livelihood. Yes, we know that there is prevailing poverty in Nigeria, but in the Niger Delta, the poverty is even worse. It's even worse because the Niger Delta suffers another level of deprivation. In every other part of the country, where there are no jobs, people can actually plant or fish and make a living. In the Niger Delta, you can no longer fish or plant. Gas flaring is polluting farmlands through acid rains. Gas flaring is polluting rivers. So the traditional occupation of young people, of the people of the Niger Delta region, which is fishing and farming, is simply no longer productive. So unemployment is on the increase in the Niger Delta. It shouldn't surprise you why we have so much destitution and so much anger and so much conflict in the region. People are losing livelihoods. And when they lose livelihoods, they get angry.
So many things which I feel it's very, very worrisome to the health of the people, to the economic, to their lifestyles. And I think we should urgently address it.
So the water, the mangrove systems, the land, they're mostly farmers and fisher folk. But all these things are destroyed because of gas flaring. So there is no more fish in the water. Most of the fish are poisoned. You go to the Niger Delta, you see the roofs are all destroyed by acid rain. Last month, we were at a town hall meeting, and you'll be surprised, the town hall where we stayed was all cracked. The floors were cracked, the chiefs were was showing us around. All the cracks are because of the vibrations that come during oil production. So the situation is very, very bad.
Some women are ignorant and they use sources of gas flaring, particularly in the Niger Delta, to preserve what is called their local foodstuff like popo gari, which is highly unhealthy and detrimental in the long run to the health of these women. And then there have been cases of infertility associated with gas flaring, and also women have given birth to infants that are deformed. These are some of the very negative, impacts of gas flaring.
You can see a lot of cancer, a lot of birth defects, a lot of skin disorders, respiratory problems, and also they can't actually do what they do.
The soil is not as productive as it used to be. The rivers too are poisoned, so people don't even have good sources of drinking water. The air, the quality of the air that people breathe, all that is, devalued. So the lives of the people appear to have been put on hold because of something that is seen as a stream of revenue for government, and at all costs it has to be maintained to the detriment of the lives of people in the regions where oil is being produced.
The way you perceive a people and a community and an environment determines the way you respond to their challenges. This is why the late Ken Saro-Wiwa spent a lot of time, the short time he had, of course, before he was killed by the country, by the government of Nigeria, working on behalf of oil companies. Now, what he realized was that the Ogoni culture had to be elevated to public knowledge. The Ogoni people had to regain their self-respect, their cultural dignity, so that they could know that they have something to fight for and something to defend, that the environment belonged to them and not to anybody else. And that's why they rose up non-violently, although they were repressed in a very brutal and violent manner. So now, whenever there's maybe an oil spill or a breach of oil infrastructure, especially the period when we had militancy, or we had youths who picked up arms, they would blow up a pipeline. Of course, they would announce ahead of time they're going to blow the pipeline. Then they blow the pipeline. Government was concerned about how many barrels of oil was being lost, how much dollars, US dollars were being lost. They never considered about how much pollution would go into the environment, how much suffering was coming to the community, and how many people were losing their lives. The same thing with gas flaring. Gas flaring had been going on since 1956 when commercial exploration of oil and gas began. And in the early 1960s, the United Kingdom government, British government, actually questioned Shell. And you could read this on their website. They questioned Shell about why they were burning these gas furnaces called gas flares in the Niger Delta. And they said that there was no market for the gas. And the British government then said in a document that was written in 1963 that what they're doing was atrocious and that one day they'll be questioned, or in my own words, held to account for what they're doing. And so there was no market for gas in the early 60s, but now there's a whole lot of market for gas. Why is gas still being flared? That's the question. It's being flared because it's cheap for the corporations. Nigeria is awash with gas. We have more gas than oil. And so if you really need gas for export, for liquefied natural gas business, you can go to a gas field and get the gas. The gas that goes in the pipe going to West Africa, we're told that it was going to help reduce gas flaring, but only 20% of that gas is associated gas. The gas that is being flared is gas associated with crude oil extraction, not gas from the gas fields. And it's not only the gas that comes with oil. When the oil is extracted, it comes also with polluted water, produced water, which is extremely polluting, and some of them are radioactive. These are all dumped into the environment with minimal treatment or oversight.
Yesterday or years ago, the best time to stop it is now. And so we want the government to work with the promise of 2020. So we hope that by latest the 31st of December, we would have no more gas flare in Nigeria.
I think the government can immediately stop the gas flaring going on and find a way to capture the energy that is being flared as a renewable source of energy for the communities. Because, so take for example, we're able to capture this, say 3.5 gigawatts, so even half of this solves the energy problem of Nigeria already.
I believe the federal government should end the gas flaring right now, because a lot of people are suffering from this gas flaring For instance, I visited the Niger Delta region last year, and I saw firsthand what people were going through. And some of them did not know that this gas flaring had effects on their health. Some of them knew about it, but they were not going to say anything because they didn't have any choice. Some of them had spoken in the past, but nothing was done. So there are statistical representations, if you like. There are so many of them, but firsthand what I saw people suffering and smiling.
Honestly, I said 1984, so it should have stopped like yesterday or 35 years ago. But since we're still on this journey to end gas flaring, that's why the Coalition for Socio-ecological Transformation, alongside the Ferikibe Stiftung, has said 2020 should be the deadline. How are we doing that? Bringing policymakers and those that have the power to effect change to the table, to push them to do what they're supposed to do. On the other hand, we're trying to build pressure from below to also stop the flaring of gas, to stop this crime, if I will put it in my own words, stop this crime since yesterday that is still continuing today.
Now the global market is changing. Apart from change and fall in oil, volatility of the oil market prices, we also have the issue of shifting divestment from oil and gas or fossil fuels, and we have shifts to renewable and cleaner energy. When is Nigeria going to get on that market? Which market is going to buy our oil in the nearest future? Number one. Number two, we haven't gained anything from flaring gas, so I think we should reutilize that gas and stop wasting resources.
It is very urgent that Nigeria government should end gas flaring, given its negative impact on the environment and on health.
The government don't really, they don't really care about their citizens. They just care about their own welfare, about their political gains, and that's all.
The recent pronouncements that they're actually doing so. But I want to believe that the recent governments are putting the right mechanisms to address this issue.
It's just like the virus that we see everywhere that you can't see, but it's killing people gradually. And I think for me, government should start ending gas flaring like now.
Why I think Nigeria should end gas flaring? Because of the negative consequences of gas flaring.
Why creating two troubles for one God? You've taken the oils from the ground, you pollute the skies with the gas that can be used. The associated gas can actually be used to power Africa in its entirety. Because if you calculate the amount of gas that is being flared and put it side by side with the amount of electricity that is needed in Nigeria, that today you find out that we have no business being in darkness.
I think the government needs to start first by valuing the life of its citizens. And I mean every citizen, including those who live in the Niger Delta. The government needs to see the Niger Delta less as an economic oil field and see it more as the abode, the habitation of its people. So it needs to start with the mindset of the government. Currently, the government is fixated on economic indicators as a measure of development. The government is looking at how many barrels of crude oil is extracted from the region on a daily basis. It's interested in how well it can meet its OPEC quota and all that. It hasn't paid equal attention to the problems associated with extraction of crude oil. Since 1979, the government has come up with flare-out deadlines, and every time it gets close, the government changes the dates. Every time it gets close, the government changes the date. The government is more interested in introducing paltry fines for gas flaring than taking actual action to end it. So again, it starts with the thinking of the government. The government must first want to solve the problem. And if it wants to solve the problem, what it needs to do is very quickly keep to the 2020 deadline for gas flaring in Nigeria. This was a deadline announced 4 years ago, propagated, announced globally. The president of this country was applauded in Marrakesh for saying that gas flaring will end in Nigeria in 2020. We're at the eve of the end of 2020. The government still has an opportunity to make true its promise. It doesn't just owe the Nigerian people that. It owes the people of Niger Delta to make sure that something that is damaging their health, destroying their livelihood so badly, needs to stop.
I think it is both. So at the level of policy, it is more a situation where we've been allowing the oil industry to influence the quality of legislation and policy that emerges from government. Now, how do I mean? we had an opportunity, to use the PIB as, well, it wouldn't have been a silver bullet, but it could have addressed a lot of the challenges in the oil and gas industry. But we missed it. Well, I'm not saying we've missed it completely, but we allowed the oil industry to influence that process and scuttle it, to a larger extent. We also have different legislation, like or regulations rather, like the regulations on the penalties for gas flaring. So if you see the tiny pittance that is being charged on these companies, you see that there is no real, intention, to punish people who are committing this crime. Gas flaring is a crime. And if you put those kind of a slap on the wrist as the penalty for gas flaring, then that means that you are complicit. So government appears to be complicit, with the companies. And that's actually what it is in reality, because most of the companies are operating joint ventures with the government. So on the one hand, you are punishing someone. On the other hand, you are taking from your pocket to pay for the crimes committed by that someone. So it's a very, very unholy relationship.
If the government has the political will, it will push the legislation. And I'm saying it is not enough to document the ill effects of gas flaring. It is not enough. And that's what we've seen so far from the National Assembly, where more and more legislators are talking about how much Nigeria loses in economic value. And I think it's actually an insult to the suffering people of the Niger Delta that when the National Assembly is having a conversation on gas flaring, that conversation is limited to economic losses. Nobody is quantifying, nobody is assessing, and nobody is documenting the level of livelihood losses, the level of deaths of people of the Niger Delta region. Life expectancy in this country is 54. In the Niger Delta, it is 40 years. People in the region are dying more on account of gas flaring. We do not hear that in the Senate. Again, it goes beyond just talk. We need action on the part of the government. And where there is a political will, where there is a realization that this place is not just an economic field, but the abode and habitation of people, when that will exists, there will be the power to push a legislation.